So this next segment, we're going to be looking at brokerage relationships in Massachusetts and the various duties required. We're going to give you a quick overview. We're going to spend a little bit more time here because this module is seller's agency with seller's agency. So let's start there. A real estate agent represents the seller as the client and treats the buyer as a customer. The agent's duties are to the seller, and we owe them old car. In seller's sub-agency occurs when a seller client expressly authorizes his or her agent to use other agents to market the seller's property. The sub-agent's duty to the seller include old car as well. Specific legal requirements to offer sub-agency to cooperating brokers or written informed consent must be obtained from the seller client to offer this sub-agency. The consent must state the following. It must state that the broker may cooperate with another broker who is then the sub-agent of the seller. Further, that vicarious liability is the potential for the seller to be held liable for misrepresentations or an act or omission of the sub-agent, and that the seller authorizes that the broker or salesperson to offer sub-agency. Now, just going through that, many sellers and many listing companies or sellers agents do not want to participate in seller sub-agency because of that vicarious liability that we just read. However, it was the standard. So prior to buyer's agency, which was something that was recognized here in 1993, before that it was nothing but seller's agency and seller sub-agency. Now, taking a look at this diagram, we're looking at what basic seller's agency looks like. So as you guys can see here, a few things to note. Number one, I want you to note that we will many times interchangeably call a seller's agent a listing agent. So they're used interchangeably, just so you get the lingo down. The client is the seller. The client is also known as the principal. We defined that earlier. So they're one and the same, and they hire us. And they can hire us through express means, or they can hire us through implied actions. In express, we have listing agreements. We might also have a few implied listing agreements, as you can see in this chart in the center green. And in the center there, the types of listing agreements are exclusive right to sell, exclusive agency sellers, open listings, and net listings. Now, we owe a fiduciary obligation to the seller. And here, as illustrated, it's Cold AC. We learned it as Old Car. Cold AC is care, obedience, loyalty, disclosure, accounting, and confidentiality. Now, the buyer in seller's agency is treated like a customer. The customer, we still have to honor certain obligations and rules and treat them a certain way. We have to treat them with professionalism, honesty, and a duty of reasonable care. And if we don't, here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and other states, we have to worry about consumer violations to the Consumer Protection Act, which is here Mass General Law, Chapter 93A. Now, a customer, a buyer in this case, could come after the brokerage firm and possibly the seller for misrepresentations because of that vicarious liability. So we always have to be aware of 93A. And remember, with 93A violations, the maximum payout penalty is treble damages, which is 3 times damages plus court plus legal fees. When we come back, we're going to be talking about seller's sub-agency.